everyone, I'm Ayşe Gülistan and I'll be your host for our Invest in Türkiye talks. In this series, we'll talk about Turkey's investment landscape and the latest developments from the field. I'll be joined by leading figures from the investment world, including entrepreneurs and investors themselves, and they'll be giving us their own outlook on what the ecosystem has to offer. Today, I'm here with Uzunhasan. Ata, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's my pleasure being here.
Ata is a former consultant and banker and is currently the managing director of Galata Business Angels. Galata Business Angels is a leading angel investors network that was officially established in 2012, and Ata has been the managing partner since 2016. Before we get talking about Galata Business Angels, Ata, I want to ask you about your previous experiences. How has working in corporate and other places that you've been affected your decision to join angel investment?
Well, that's a very good question. When I graduated back in 2005, looking from today, it seems far, far away. And I never thought that I was going to be a managing director of a business angel network, because on that date, I didn't know about the startups. Basically, we didn't have the term of startup back on that date. And also, we didn't have the term angel investing here in Turkey as well. So as everyone did around my classmates, I started as an auditor. And then I said that, okay, it's a wonderful job, but I got what I needed. So I moved to the consulting and I spent almost 5 years there. And thereafter, I had one chance. There was two similar banks merging. And I said, once in a lifetime, you cannot find that opportunity. So I decided to move on that career. And what I did, I've worked in the post-merger integration team for a long time. So I was working for TEB, and TEB was the first institution that was heavily focused into the entrepreneurship and acceleration programs. So what I did there, I tried to understand what they were doing, and in the end I really liked the concept. I started working with some startups, offer their products to my clients in the bank. So I said, the life is slow in the banking area, so I need to test something new. And in the end, just by searching and asking to my friends, I found this opportunity to move to the Galata Business Angels as the managing director.
So can you tell us about Galata Business Angels? What is it exactly that you do?
So, as you mentioned, it was founded back in 2012, and it was founded by the successful entrepreneurs who started their business from scratch, and they did their best, and in the end they sold their companies with a couple of $100 million, which were quite a success stories back on those days. So after selling their companies, they came together, and with a sense of thought of giving back, they said, we have enough experience, we have enough money, and especially we have enough knowledge to give back to the ecosystem. And in the end, they decided to join together and establish this business angel network. So back on that date, which was non-existing here in startup ecosystem. So they found a business angel network in France. They got the know-how from them, and they started the operation here in Turkey. And it worked really well because, they have enough money to invest in, but additionally, they have enough money, enough knowledge to give to the startup. So which we called, in a very short type, we say smart money.
So, like you said, GBA is a network for angel investors. Putting the term angel in front of the investor, or what's the difference between an investor and an angel investor?
So as we have the word investor there, I need to tell you before getting too emotional about angel investing, how amazing it is and how useful for the society, how it's very good for a person who is investing in startups. I need to tell you that it's a type of investment. So in a normal investment, you have the capital, you have the return, you have the maturity, and you do it for the future, right? You do it for yourself, you do it for your, kids. And in the end, as it's an investment, you expect a return from here. But as you know, in the finance classes, in Finance 101, so if you take high risk, you get the high returns. So in angel investing, we are talking about investing into the startups, but you are looking for high returns, taking the high risk, meaning that you take the upside of a company that you invest in, but together with that, you also take the downside of it. So the money that you invest in a startup, it is invested as a stock. So you become a shareholder of a company. And if the company goes bad, you lose all of them.
There's also a greater risk, but also a greater return if the startup does successfully.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. So you cannot do it with, 100% of your savings. It's not logical in that. So besides the money, as mentioned earlier, So there's the smart money thing. So let me explain you about the smart money. As investors have some experience about the business, previous entrepreneurial experience. So they provide some knowledge to the entrepreneur, which they really lack and need that type of knowledge. Like, let's say the company grows up and you need to get a CFO, you need to get a CHRO. So you don't know when to get them, right? So in the end, you need to ask some people how to do that and why to do that. They provide that knowledge to those startups together with the money that they invest in. So which is really crucial. That's one thing. The second thing is about the network. So in the end, you need to sell your product, and to sell it, you need to get some connections. Otherwise, it takes longer. And if you ask your angel investor to get some introduction, they provide you. And that's really priceless in that terms.
Okay, and what exactly is it that an angel investor looks for in a startup? And how does that differentiate between a normal investor?
So it's all about taking the risk. So if you're really willing to take the risk, you bet into a company that is possibly going to really success, and you make, large number of returns or multiples, how we say. That's one thing. And the second thing, if you have that knowledge on that specific area, you can help them. And if you really want to help them, you can go and invest in them. But to do so, for an angel investor, you possibly need, first of all, the capital. And the second thing, the knowledge and plus time. So if you don't have any of those, you cannot invest into a startup. If you have just the capital, maybe you can invest to startups, but you can do it through the venture funds. But angel investing needs more efforts. So you need to spend more time together with the entrepreneurs.
You said that knowledge is obviously important in the sector that you invest in. But as an angel investor, is there ever a moment where you believe, you just have a sense of feeling that this person or this founder, co-founder, they will be successful, and you risk on that feeling that you have?
Yeah, exactly. So there's one sentence that one of our angels said, a GBA member, said that, the Galata Business Angels is my personal R&D studio, because there are lots of different entrepreneurs coming in and they pitch their startup. In the end, you cannot know all topics, what is going on all around the world. And you listen to them. And basically, as you mentioned, in the end, you bet to the entrepreneur who is presenting the idea. You check their background, what they did before, did they succeed before, why they especially selected this area to work on. If you understand those topics, basically your bet has a higher chance to succeed.
And how many companies do you have in your portfolio currently?
So far, we invested in 53 different companies. Of course, some of them failed. We have one very successful company, is called Insider. When we invested in them, the valuation was only a couple of $1 million, and today it's a unicorn. And thanks to them, we made huge returns. And we have a couple of exits as well.
Okay, and out of the 53 companies, do you have, for instance, a quota where you say we'll invest 20% in technology, 20% in fintech, or is it totally a random decision?
So my business is to find the best startups. So I check, I do my scouting. Therefore, I call myself, besides the managing director role, as a startup scout. So what I do, I go to the events, I arrange the meetings with them, I spend some time with them, I visit their offices, and after scouting them, I hunt them and bring them into the table. So it's not that much savage, by the way, so it's just a saying. So in the end, our angels decide whether to invest or not into the companies. But I cannot tell you that there's a specific percentage. This X amount of percentage will be in the technology and Y amount of them will be in the normal sector. So we don't say that. But I can just tell you that in general terms, we invest into the technology and software companies. The reason why the software scales much faster as compared to production or service area.
The reason why I'm asking about whether you have a certain quota of how much money goes to a certain sector is because we see new ideas and startups everywhere now. It's really increasing. It wasn't like this before. A couple of years ago, having a startup, it was seemed as a risky business because people didn't know where they could end. They would just rather work in corporate and then just carry on like that. You called yourself a startup scouter, but how do you keep up with this? With so many ideas, so many people entering the sector, whether it's technology, AI, fintech, etc. How do you keep up with finding that best idea?
Yeah, that's a very good question indeed. So what I do, I spend almost 10% or up to 20% of my time do the research, read about the articles, read about the trends. Because in the end, what we see as angel investor, yes, we do the initial investment, but the follow-on investment is coming from the venture capitals, especially if you move to the bigger rounds, which we name them as Series B, Series C, Series D, etc. So those type of venture capitals, they generally follow some trends. So if we find a decent wave, we try to understand it's a sustainable one or it's just a hype or not. So if we really understand there's a huge opportunity in a certain startup, we bet into the company, we invest into the company, and we hope for the other venture capitals to join into that round.
Now, Ata, if we move on to the situation in Türkiye, obviously we've spoken about the different developments in the field. Entrepreneurship is growing. We have many government bodies that are now very vested in this sector, the government initiatives, and the public and private sectors are working closely together, including civil society, to make Türkiye one of the leading countries in this area. How would you say Turkey's angel investment ecosystem has developed since you entered the sector? It's been about nearly a decade since you've entered, so I'm sure there's a major difference between what it was when you entered, because you said already that there was nobody else. Galata Business Angels was the first of its kind. So when you compare 2016 to today, what would you say?
Well, that was a really rapid growth, I need to admit. So in the angel investing side, we have lots of competitors, which I like, to be honest. The competition is always good for the startup ecosystem because, as there are some other alternatives, the number of startups also increased dramatically as well, thanks to them. Besides the angel investing, the number of venture capitalists that we have in our ecosystem has increased dramatically as well, with the help of the government, with the fund of funds created by the government provided to the venture capitals. And also some new initiatives started from the corporate side as well. So thanks to them, we have many corporate venture capitals involved in the sector as well. So therefore, as compared to 2016, today's Turkish startup ecosystem is an amazingly emerging startup ecosystem. I can tell you that there's enough fund, there are enough number of startups, enough number of angel investors, and it's still growing very fast. So as compared to the already matured startup ecosystems. And thanks to that, back in 2016, we were just imagining if we will be able to have any unicorn in our startup ecosystem or not. And when we come back today, so we can easily say that, okay, we have many candidates that going to be a unicorn, which we call them as sunicorns. So I can tell you that in the Central and Eastern European part, Turkey is by far going to be lead in the close 5 years.
And how do you think these developments, this growth that you mentioned, how was it supported by the public sector? How did they adapt to each other? How was the development supported?
Especially after pandemic, public sector helped a lot into our startup ecosystem. So there are some reasons, like, we had our first unicorn, the exit of Peak Games, that really grabbed attention into the startup ecosystem. Besides the Peak Games, we have Getir, back on date, got enormous amount of investment, so they became the first decacorn of Turkish startup ecosystem. And thanks to them, these two startups, we had increasing attention into this ecosystem. And then we had new communique of VCIF. And thanks to that, we have many venture capitalists appeared in the Turkish startup ecosystem, and they're supporting especially into the seed stage startups. Besides that, the public sector actually gave incentive to the companies, having some incentives coming from the R&Ds. So they spent some part of it investing into the startup ecosystem as well. And CVCs started to utilizing the VCIF system as well. So at the end, till now, we had some venture capitals that the body was established abroad, and we have some angel investors before. But after the pandemic, we have increasing number of venture capitals thanks to VCIF communique, and increasing number of angel investors as well. And that is happening thanks to the crowdsourcing as well. because they introduced crowdfunding law. Thanks to that, we have at the moment 3 different crowdfunding active systems. And through that, some of the startups started raising money from the public as well. So just to sum up, we have investment scheme here in Turkey that is diverse into the crowd. So we have many people that know what startup is today and what are some opportunities that is going to happen in the near future. And we have lots of new venture capitals coming into the stage, which is very good for the emerging startup ecosystem and some fundraising startups, especially in the seed stage. And in the close future, we are also expecting some big funds that are going to help Turkish startups to grow into Series A and Series B, especially after Series B stage. So meaning that 2-digit, starting from $10 million investment.
So coming to my final question, and it's something that you touched upon, Turkish startups. You speak to so many founders, so many people in the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. What word would you use to define them, and how do you see their future?
Well, that's a very good question as well. Besides Turkey, I see startups from many different countries, and I can tell you that there are some characters of the culture that is reflecting to the startup. That's very interesting. If you go to an Italian startup, they are very technical, very smart people, but somehow relaxed, so not very aggressive to grow the company. That's part of their culture, right? So, for example, if you go to a US startup, okay, they are amazing. They are very good in finding the idea and amazing in presenting it, so they can sell you anything. But if you talk about them, they always ask for large amount of money, because maybe you can tell the capital is more abundant in US. And if you come to the Turkey, you can see that Turkish startups are the most resilient startups all around the world, because the economy is not easy, the competition is very high, and also reaching the capital is not easy at all. So yes, as I mentioned that there are many venture capitalists joining into the stage, but we don't have enough capital yet at the moment. So therefore, they really know the value of that money. And small amount of investments also creating enough imagination for the entrepreneurs how to solve the problems. So they are very good in solving the problems with some creativity. So therefore, in terms of competition, I can tell you that Turkish startups are very competitive. They know how to keep their secret sauce, and they're very flexible as well. So in terms of future education-wise, the entrepreneur's quality is increasing, and also the focus is moving towards the entrepreneurship as well, which is going to change many things in the Turkish startup ecosystem, because so far we had the culture of working as a white-collar employee in the big companies. But as far as I can see, with the introduction of the new generation into the workforce, we have many people who are more interested trying their chance in the entrepreneurship and try to establish their new startup. As they have more exposure to the international markets, I bet we are going to have more international companies going to win the international market.
Today with Ata, we spoke about angel investment, what risks an angel investor may need to calculate before investing, and how this sector has developed over the years. Thank you, Ata, for these precious comments.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You can find our podcast on all streaming platforms, and for more updates and information, follow Invest in Turkey on social media. Stay tuned for more episodes where we'll be talking more about investment in Turkey.